Hi guys, today I want to talk about what taking the average involves. Taking the average appears a lot in mathematics. It's called the mean, but in science we call it we call it the average, and we use it quite often to increase reliability in our experiments. This is by examining all the results that we get from a particular experiment, and then seeing what is the most likely outcome that we can get by taking the average of the outcomes that we get from that experiment. Its definition refers to the most likely number which will come from a series of number. So again, you're not looking for the median, which is the number that occurs in the middle. You're actually looking for a number which would represent what would occur most likely most of the times during that particular experiment. Okay, and this is the general way to do it. All you do is you add up all the numbers, all the data points, all the quantities that you've gathered, and then you divide it by how many numbers there are. So how many samples or how many series of numbers you've got. So let's have a look at an example. Okay. Here we got the heights of students in a very small class. Okay, and what it says here, you can see we have 10 data points. So we've got a series of 10 numbers, and they're all in centimeters. So in order for us to actually get the average of these, we have to add each one of these quantities and add it and divide it by the number which represents their series, which is 10. So let's have a look at that. So 155 plus 160 plus 170 plus 109 plus 155 plus 160 plus 171 plus 162 plus 150, and we divide that by 10 quantities, so we end up getting a quantity of 154. And the average is equal to 154.2 centimeters. Notice how you got this number here, this decimal 0.2. That tends to happen a lot with your averages because you're dealing with a number that doesn't necessarily appear in your data points, but is more likely to completely represent what the average would be of that sequence of numbers. Let's try another example. Okay. This is an interesting example. This is more likely what you would encounter. Okay, so here we have an experiment. What happens here is they got a tennis ball, they're releasing it from some particular height. We're going up in intervals of 0.5 meters, so 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5 and 3 meters. And now what happens is they repeat that 3 times in each instant. You can see at the 0.5 meter release height, we're getting a bounce height. The first bounce height that we get is 0.1, so 10 centimeters. The next one is 0.12, which is 12 centimeters, and then the next one we're getting 0.1 again meters. So what we do again, we'll apply the same thing. We'll add them all up, and we'll divide them by how many of them appears, how many in the series. Here we've got 3, and then that will give us the average. So let's have a look at that. So again, I didn't explain it before, but you can actually use this function, this fraction function in your calculator, and that makes it a lot easier for you to calculate this. So let's have a look. So we got 0.1 plus 0.12 plus 0.1 divided by 3, and we get an average of, and okay, when you use that function in your calculator, you're left with this simplified fraction. The way you can get rid of that is by using this SD button, which converts fractions into decimals. Okay, so we're saying that our average is 0.1. Now we have 0.6 because the most decimal points that we had is this one, 1.12. That means we've got to get the next one and the next one, because we're rounding it up to the next level higher, and that's a 6, so that becomes 0.11 meters. Okay, so let's have a go at the next one. Okay, so here, in this experiment, the tennis ball has been dropped from a 1 meter height, and then when the first trial we get a 0.23 bounce height, so 23 centimeters. We get the next one is 0.25 meters, and then we get a final one of 0.3. So again, we'll do the same business. We'll add each one of these numbers up, and we'll divide it by how many occur in that series. So here we got 3. So let's give that a go. Zero point 2.3. So I just switch those around. 0.3, and divide that by 3. We get 0.26 meters. So I'll speed up and I'll do the rest of them. Okay, and we'll do this last one together. So 3 meters, these are the results. So the first trial 0.6 meters, next one 0.61, the third one is 0.65. Okay. 0.6 plus 0.61 plus 0.65 divided by 3, and that gives us 0.62. Okay guys, so I hope that helped with understanding the concept of an average. But just remember, it is the most likely number to occur in a series of numbers. So these numbers might repeat themselves or be close to one another. And the way you do it is just adding them all up and dividing by how many of those numbers are present in that series.